Welcome to Light in the Dark podcast. I am your host, Lady B. Before I introduce today's guest, I want to stress the words trigger warning. Topics discussed today may be triggering to some. You have been warned. Also, neither I nor the guest are licensed therapists, psychologists, counselors, etc. We are only sharing our experiences and or testimonies. If you need a licensed therapist, psychologist, counselor, etc., please seek a licensed therapist, psychologist, counselor, etc. There is no shame in getting your mental health together. I repeat, there is no shame in getting your mental health together. Now, on that note, let's start the show.
I have with me my sister, Justine, my blood sister, covered by the blood of Jesus, my blood sister. I have
Oh,
with me
praise
Justine.
God, praise God.
All right, sis, you like to introduce yourself while I get
Oh,
comfortable?
yes, ma'am. My name is Chessie Williams. Actually, I'm out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm a mother of three, grandmother of 10, and I have a nonprofit organization called Survivor for Life. Me and my husband and I, my late husband and I, we started this nonprofit back in 2010. We wanted to give something back to the community. So we felt like this would be a great opportunity to come up with something. Some of the trials and tribulations that we faced as young people, just wanting to be loved. And so we had our trials and our tribulations, and by the grace of God, we overcame a lot of them. And we came back together after 20 something years, and when we came back together for a purpose. I knew that it was a purpose because how it happened. And so we came up with Survive for Life.
I guess I'll, go ahead and put the disclaimer out there. I'm not a therapist. So the topics that we will discuss are, trauma related topics, but I am not a therapist. I don't claim to be a therapist. If you need help, then seek a therapist, but I am not it. Uh, we basically on here to tell our stories, tell our testimonies, and let people know that, hey, you are not alone in whatever the trauma is that you are going through. You can go from trauma to healing. And so today's topics that we will discuss are shame and low self-esteem. And we're going to try to stay on topic, but hey, sometimes we get off topic, but it's still good.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I think sometimes when we get off topics, it's because we have been through so much, and all the topics that you had outlined and put out there, I think I can touch just about all of them, and so by the grace of God, I survived it. And so it's okay if I do get back on, get off track, I'll get back on, you know. So it's always good to share with the people in our community.
True.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you want to talk about, as far as shame goes?
Well, actually, shame for me started at a very young age. I was maybe between the ages of 4 and 5 years old. That's when my parents were, together, and my mother would be out sometimes with her girlfriends, and I know that my dad be at home babysitting, and a lot of times her girlfriends would come over, whether stop by to check and see if she was at home or because they knew she wasn't at home. I don't know. But anyway, they would stop by, and I noticed that sometimes my dad would go in the back room with them and shut the door, and I'd be sitting on the couch watching TV, but I'd be watching that door too. And so I don't know, as a kid, I just had that instinct that it was wrong, and so I noticed that would happen, and then my mother come home, and so he would act like nothing had happened. Even at 5 years old, I just knew something. We have that just instinct, and so I felt bad for her. I know I knew as a kid how much she loved my dad, and so as time went on, I kind of felt bad for her because I couldn't tell her what was going on, but I knew it was something going on. A lot of times my dad and mom would fuss, and he would fight her, and so that was very painful for me, and I was ashamed of him acting out like he did. Instead of finding other ways to treat her, he he was physical, and that affected me and caused me to feel, I guess, bad because it would leave scars on the inside and the outside. And as a kid, we feel that. That's how my shame started. And then as time went on, when my parents both passed away, 5 months apart, then my aunt, she stepped in and started, she took on the responsibility of raising us. And so at that time, I may have turned 6 years old when I was getting ready to start kindergarten. And for some reason, I really still don't know to this day why she made the announcement. Now, who wants to call me mama? And it was 9 of us. And it started from maybe 1.5 years old, my baby sister, up until about 15. you know, that's what the age range was. And so some of them said, yeah, I'm going to do that. And so it was my brother and I that were real close. And he said, I'm not going to call her mom. She's not our mother. And you better not. And so I was torn between them two, because I love my brother and I looked up to him. But I also, I liked the lady who was raising us. I was trying to get to know her. I was always trying to be obedient as a kid. Didn't want to have any trouble, didn't want to cause any trouble because I felt in my spirit, man, as a kid, that there was something always going on, which would cause me to be very nervous as a kid. Nervous, shy, bashful, real quiet. Uh, Enjoyed playing by myself. I didn't need any company. It was just me. And I was comfortable, with just being just me. Anyway, the family, the ones that did decide to call her mother, they did. And I went on ahead and followed my brother. And at that time, I decided I wasn't going to call her mom. I'm just going to call her aunt. And so she decided, she said, okay, if that's how you want to do it, then I tell you what, you wear the clothes that are in the drawer that are wrinkled. And she told my other sisters, you can wear the clothes that are nice and hung up in the closet. So I felt bad. I felt real. I was ashamed to go to school because my clothes were wrinkled and things like that, which made me start. That's how I believe this low self-esteem, came about because the kids would tease me. And so with the my mother leaving, and I know she was leaving and she wasn't ever coming back because of me as a kid hearing the conversation that my aunts would have and my dad then would have. I knew that she had left and she wasn't coming back, which caused me to start wetting the bed. It's all kind of things that we experience when there's trauma.
Yeah.
Even if the trauma started probably when I noticed that my parents fought. I didn't want to call her mom, my aunt mom. And so she made me wear the clothes, and the kids teased me, and then I wet the bed, and then it wasn't any better because she made the announcement when I would wet the bed in front of everyone in the family. She wet the bed, she peed the bed. She's gonna, mess up the whole house. She's gonna mess up all the mattresses. And so I started feeling bad. And we got to be careful how we try to discipline the children because sometimes it lingers until their adulthood and it affects them. And so I think that's where a lot of my pain, my issues started when I was really young by the upbringing of my aunt. She did the best she could. Uh, she only had one child, and for her to be at the age of 55 trying to raise all 9 of her sister's children, she made a promise, and that's what she did. And
Wow.
so I don't fault her. She did the best she can. I love her, and when she was bringing us up, I never saw a man in the house. With her raising us, we never went hungry. There was never a man around because she didn't believe in that, because she didn't want us to be violated in any area anyway. And so she thought that was one of the ways that she could eliminate that. But that was not so, because as we got older, I think I want to say about 10 years old, my cousin, my mother's sister's son, which made that my first cousin, he would sexually, abuse me and my sister.
Whoa.
And I believe that he did that also to my brother, but my brother would never admit to that. So he did that, and I was too ashamed to tell anyone. And even though I know that my sister knew that I was getting abused sexually, and she was too, but we never made that contact to say, what are we going to do about it? We just kept it to ourselves, and we just went on. And I didn't know how to approach my aunt, which later on, I think I was maybe 9 or 10, I began to call her mom. Uh, I just didn't know how to tell her because I knew that it would be some more trouble, and I didn't want the trouble. And so I just took it upon myself to suppress that and just kind of went on with life. But then eventually it would show up. And at the time I didn't know that. We as kids, we don't know all this. But yeah, and he continued to do that. But there was a time in our life that I guess you know how sometimes you go through so much trauma, you block out a lot of things. So I think as I was growing up at a young age, I want to say about 12 or 13, my brothers and them always say, "Oh, you're big for your age." So I think I was about 12. I was held at gunpoint by a man. I was going to the store to get my brother a newspaper, and some man, he came by and held me at gunpoint, put me in the car, and he raped me. And I didn't quite understand even at that point why me. I was so scared and shook up. And so, but he went to prison. I remembered some of the things that happened, and I remembered the places I was. And so I was able to tell my aunt, which was able to tell the police. And so they went and arrested him. And so that was another shameful event that took place in my life. And so, one thing after another, after a while, you start trying to suppress it. But like I said, eventually it leak out. And it did. That's where I started having a lot of trouble, shame. I started having abandonment issues, and things like that.
So when you like suppress it, like you just got numb to it, like did that help though?
Well, it helped for the at the moment, but then there go the shame again because I was ashamed of what was going on, and I couldn't tell anyone because I didn't know what was going to happen, how it was going to happen, why, and I didn't like all that attention and frustration, and I just didn't like it. So I took up a lot of things and kept it to myself, which yeah, it wasn't healthy or anything, but that's what I did in order to keep down the trouble in the house. And I felt that maybe they would say, "Oh, it's you, it's your fault." And I knew that, as my aunt, I knew how she was, and she probably would have killed him. She would have killed him in a heartbeat. That's how much she loved and protected us. You know, and she was very overprotective of us girls and my brothers, and I appreciate that. But some things we feel comfortable with our relatives,
Yeah.
and as I was growing up, I didn't know, I felt comfortable too. But later on in life, as an adult, I found out majority of the time it be the ones that is closest to you that normally do this, do that very act, abusing the children and abusing, sexual abusing the family. That's where it come from. And hurting people hurt others. And I'm not trying to make excuses for them. But I do, I have found out that hurting people hurt others, and it goes on, it continues until someone gets some help. And, after he did that, I was too ashamed to look at him. But there was a time in my life after I was in I call it in the valley. I went to prison, and I had, went to counseling, and I sought counseling because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of myself and the decisions that I made. And so, when you go to counseling and therapy, you learn a lot of things. And so I learned a lot, you know, about myself, finding out it wasn't my fault. And so that helped me. And when I got out of prison, uh, I saw him again, and I was able to face him this time because I was able to, get it out to someone, let people know that I was hurting. I had that one-on-one counseling, and it helped me. And I told him, I forgive you for what you did.
And so the him
And
you're talking about, like, is that your cousin?
yes,
Okay.
yes. I told him I forgive him, and I prayed for him, and he felt so bad. I know he did. I felt bad because I saw the pain. Once you get healthy, or once you started finding out a lot about how hurting people hurt others, then I don't know. I just had compassion for him because I know that he was in a lot of pain. And so I could look at him in the eyes when there was a time I couldn't look him in the eye. And I looked him in the eye and I saw that he was in a lot of pain, mentally and, mentally, because he had lost his best friend, which was his mother. And so I was, like I said, I was able to look at him in his eye and tell him, I forgive you and I'm praying for you. And can we pray? And I did that. I wanted to make sure I was healthy enough to do that, and I was, and I prayed for him, and he said thank you, and he dropped his head and he walked off. And at that moment, in my heart, I knew he was sorry. He was in a lot of pain himself, and I think maybe a week later he died, and I was okay with praying with him and telling him that I forgive him for what he had done, and so that was a big burden lifted up off of my shoulder.
So, like, did he apologize, or did you just offer the "I forgive you" because of something that was in you?
I think it was more or less just me.
Okay.
Uh, Without him saying anything, I could look in his eyes and tell that he was in a lot of pain. And so my heart went out to him when he dropped his head, and his body language told me a lot too. See, I learned a lot. And so when you learn about the body languages and all the hurt, like I say, hurt how hurting people hurt others, you know how it feels to hurt. So you don't want anyone else to hurt like you did. I thank God that He gave me that type of heart. Some people, my sister she still have problems with forgiving him, and so I'm glad I was able to tell him how I felt and that I forgave him, and I was able to look him in the eyes. And I think maybe she had to write him a letter, and she still kind of every now and then talk about it.
So, in a way, it kind of freed you, actually. Um.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does. It does, even with uh, after a while, my aunt would always tell me that I couldn't wear certain clothes because I didn't call her mama or mother or whatever. Uh, After a while, I was just kind of numb with the kids teasing me about my appearance. So when I got older and I could do something about it, I made sure I did just that. I didn't care what it cost. I didn't care how I had to get it. By any means necessary, I got it. And I was able to dress like I wanted to. I don't care. I didn't care how I had to go about getting it. And then, I got the clothes and I wore the clothes and I got the applause and I got the oohs and the ahs. But I found out it really wasn't nothing to that, how well I dressed and what I had on at the clubs. And, I found out, you know, in life, it still wasn't fulfilling enough, you know.
So, like, at the moment with the clothes, did it, like, when you had them on, did it help with the low self esteem? Like, help build it up, even
Oh
while you had?
yeah, for a period of time, of course, you got on the best and the latest and you wearing that thing, some people say, girl, that outfit is bad. Where'd you get that? You can't afford it or whatever. I had a real smart mouth because like I say, hurting people, hurt others. And so I was at the time I was what they call filling my oaks. I was just happy to be able to wear the clothes to I guess kind of fit in, uh, and I think we all want to fit in, you know. Then after a while, I was like, it ain't no big deal. It is nothing to it, you know. So I stopped going all out my way. I think that after a while, when I went to prison, I spent some time in prison. I found out that I was more freer in there than I was out here trying to keep up, just a spinning wheel trying to keep up. And now I look back over my life and I thought, oh boy, I could have did something different. I could have did something better, but I didn't. And so now that I'm able to help someone else, uh, truly I'm blessed by being able to do that. So I look forward to doing that every day, being able to, if nothing else, but you know, give them a smile.
That's probably, well, I believe that's like the first time I've ever heard someone say that they felt freer behind bars than out in the free world.
I didn't have to be bothered with that rat race of trying to be something that I really wasn't. You know, I just had to have. I didn't care if the suit was $1,500. It was mine just because I had that attitude. My sister said, "You're so arrogant and you're cocky, and I can't stand you." And I said, that's that's okay. I'm okay with that. The world see me different. I don't know how the world was seeing me. You know, some people laugh and say, "Girl, you got it going on in your face, and behind your back they saying something else." But at the time, it felt good, and I was out there flashy with the clothes and da 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 da. But when I got behind closed doors, I was still dealing with a lot of trauma, trauma, neglect, abandonment, uh, shame, guilt. You know, that stuff wasn't mine, you know?
So in a way, like being behind bars kind of sort of like stopped you from pretending to be someone that you wasn't. Like
Yeah,
it caused you to basically, well, stop, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
and like
yeah.
see you for like who you are and like accept it. And then like did that lead you towards the start of that healing process, or was that like after you got out?
I think it was over a period of time because I did go to prison not just one time. I went a couple of times because the first time I would say that it was rather easy because the first time I went to federal prison it was co-ed, it was men and women, so it was really it was easy time. It was just I was doing time away from what they call the free world, and it's just like a world within a world, and it's just meeting people all over the world, doctors, lawyers, senators, and man, I was young, and I went in and I thought, okay, now what can I do here? You know, I met this senator, and he helped me get me a time cut on my sentences that I received from the judge, and yeah, he called himself liking me, and I thought, man, I'll take him fast, and let me see what I could do with him. I was always thinking about what I could do, what I could use this person for, what can I benefit from this person and this person. But then after a while, I got tired of that. You know, I just wanted to uh, change some of my ways because I felt that I wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. After I got out of federal prison, I said, okay, so I'm going to catch up with everything that I lost. But you really don't catch up because you never get that time back, you know. And I had children that time was, you know, they was continuing to live and have birthdays, and so it affected them as well. But by the grace of God, they dealt with it, and they're still going on and living their life to say, I'll never do what you did, you know, and that's not a bad thing. You know, I'm grateful for that. You know, and when I get, you know, that last time I got out, I had a made up mind I wasn't going to ever return because I seen the pain. I had made up in my mind while I was in prison that I wasn't going to return back to that same lifestyle. See, I think that it started for me when I was in there, made up mind. I'm done with that. And there was family members were saying, she said that before. She'll get back out and do it again, just a matter of time. But I didn't care what they said because the pain was great enough for me to stop. I learned a lot of things in prison. In fact, they used to call me Sunshine. I guess they saw something in me in that dark place that, maybe they saw some kind of light. I don't know what I was like. And I didn't have blonde hair, so that couldn't been the reason. So I don't know why they call me Sunshine, but I accepted and kept going. And even out here, sometimes people say, "Hey, Sunshine," and I reflect back of when I first had that name, Sunshine, attached to me, and it just kind of blessed me, and I smiled. I met a lot of good people in there, had some real good counseling and some therapy in there, the tools that they taught me that I could use once I got out. And so I was truly blessed because I could have continued to be out here going down the wrong pathway and it could have led me to my death. But by the grace of God, he said, "No, I have other plans for you." And he told me that last time when I had a made up mind, he said, "I have other plans for you." And but I started to want to change. I wanted to have a different life because I miss my children tremendously, and I knew that in my heart that I was a good mother. I just kind of got out there, and I wanted to be out there because I was so sheltered by my aunt, So when I got out there, boy, I went wow, ran into a lot of brick walls because of the trauma and the shame and the pain that I was in, that I finally started dealing with. And when it come up, I wanted it to go away, but
Yeah.
now I found out I had the tools to use when those things come up, how to deal with it, and so I dealt with it.
The way that trauma manifests itself is like different for each and everybody.
Oh
And
yeah.
most people don't even recognize it. Like you have a few that do, but most people don't. And some people just be like, "Oh, well, that's just them. That's how they are." But it's something deeper
Hmm.
than that, though.
Oh yeah, yeah, it really is, and it can affect you the rest of your life if you don't deal with it. Oh man, I just wanted to be free, and I remember when I was in prison, uh, that last time, begin to call on my God, my Lord and my Savior. And I began to call on him. I began to search the scriptures and things, and he began to share some things with me, and my relationship began to grow right there in prison. And I'm telling you, God will be with you even in the valley. So I
No.
was so grateful. They at the time that I was going in and out of prison and jail, it was kind of crowded for women, and so this last time they put me on death row because they didn't have no room, any more room in population. But as I was living back there on death row, I began to hear God more clear than ever before.
Oh, wow.
Mm. Yeah, oh yeah, oh my God, it was just a place. It was just so eerie, I was just like, whoa. I mean, you could feel the atmosphere was so sad, and I would see the roaches and the rats, and I was like, oh my God, they gotta live like this for the rest of their life. And the Holy Spirit told me, He said, if you go back and do what you was doing, this is where you'll be for the rest of your life.
Whoa.
And so right then I knew that because I knew if I ever went back, I was just going what they say, whole court in the streets. No, I'm not bad, but I knew that if I went back, I was going to go back. I was going to have a real reason to go back, nothing petty. So I just said, nah, this is just not for me. I continued to hold on to the word of God. And that's what got me through. That's when I began to really seek his face like never before. And then he would begin to reveal some things to me. He would talk to me like never before. And that's how I came to Texas, because he told me. He said, "You're going to go back there." And I was like, I don't know a soul. So, God, he'll talk to you if you just listen. He'll talk to you if you just listen to him. He'll never let you down. He won't leave you in the desert by yourself. You know,
Right
he'll
there in the
bring you
desert
some
with you.
water. He'll bring you some water when you're thirsty. Yes, he will. So, I'm just grateful for at this point in my life, I'm grateful for the journey because now I can help someone else. I've always said, even in prison, I said, I'm gonna write me a book. I'm gonna write a book, and I know it's gonna be a bestseller. But I just haven't sat down to write it, because I've had a lot of trauma, pain, shame, jealousy, abuse. I mean,